In this series of videos, we're working through the process of learning all you need to know to become certified as a system administrator in ServiceNow. This episode picks up where we left off in the ServiceNow Fundamentals Learning Path by covering Lesson 2, the ServiceNow Platform Overview. Topics included in this video will be the Now Platform Architecture, Applications and Workflows, User Interface Types, and Role-Based Access and Authentication. At the end of this video, we'll introduce to you how you can get your very own ServiceNow instance fully functional that you can use to follow along and test out everything we're learning in this series of videos on a journey to ServiceNow certification. Hey, it's Jeff Teese here from ServiceNowSimple.com, where we help you understand the ins and outs of ServiceNow, keeping it simple all the way. If you've been here before, welcome back. Hopefully you're a subscriber. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and know that you can look in the description box below for links to any of the resources we mention in the course of this video. Now, let's get simple with the ServiceNow Platform Overview. Welcome to Lesson 2, the ServiceNow Fundamentals Learning Path. The title of this lesson is ServiceNow Platform Overview. The topics that they covered in this lesson included the Now Platform Architecture, the Applications and Workflows, User Interfaces, and Role-Based Access and Authentication. Let's talk about what the highlights and what I think is important to know from this lesson. The course starts out by introducing us to Fred Luddy. Fred is the founder of ServiceNow. He founded ServiceNow in 2004, and the marketing lingo is to automate the flow of work throughout a business. Interestingly, I watched a couple of videos where Fred was being interviewed, and he said it best, I think, when he explained that the real reason he began this whole initiative in the ServiceNow Corporation was that it infuriated him when he saw IT staff members making business people look foolish and ignorant, trying to explain requirements, and it just drove him nuts. So he came up with the great idea that how awesome would it be if the business people themselves, the people that understand the business, could actually solve their own business problems with technology that was straightforward and intuitive and built simply and easily to use. So rather than having to explain all of the business problems to IT staffers and then re-explain it, you've seen it before, those folks are often more interested in the technology than they are actually solving the business problem in the first place. Fred identified that and said, I want to build a suite of software that would allow the business people to solve their own problems. A great idea. Interestingly, Fred was a college dropout. So there's that. It's worked out well for him, though. Fred is, as of 11/22/2021, from some Googling and research that I've done, you know how accurate some of that information is, but I thought it was interesting to share that he's got a net worth now of $1.3 billion. So ServiceNow has grown and was a great idea. Not sure there's anything there that you'd need to know related to a certification exam, but I thought it was interesting that they at least introduced us to Fred. Seems like a really interesting guy. Now let's talk about the Now platform itself. This is where I think we begin to get into the actual meat of the content, some things that we're going to need to know. The Now platform is described by ServiceNow as an application platform as a service, or APaaS delivery model. That was a new term to me. I've done some research on cloud delivery platforms in the past, things like Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services. Normally, when you're talking about cloud delivery models, you get three flavors. The first being infrastructure as a service. In a scenario like that, it would be like you're leasing out a data center, and they're providing all of the infrastructure, so all of the hardware compute resources. You can think of it that way. They supply the hardware, the disk drives, the fans, the racks, the building, the power, and they guarantee to keep it up for you. But from there, you're responsible for using it however you'd like. You need to install the operating systems. You need to install the software that you need. you need to manage all the patches and upgrades to the software and things like that. That would be an example of infrastructure as a service. Very common delivery model. The second of the normal or common delivery models is platform as a service. In that scenario, they take their services a step farther. So they do provide all the infrastructure, so everything with infrastructure as a service is provided. In addition, they also take care of managing all of the software that you need. So they will take care of the operating systems, all the patches and upgrades related. They will also take care of the software you would need to deliver your solutions or build your own solutions. So databases, for example, application servers, web servers, all the things like that, they take care of. And your responsibility really is building the applications that you need on their platform to get the work done that your business requires. So that would be platform as a service. And then the third delivery model is called software as a service. And in that situation or scenario, they take the services up even further, and they say, okay, we'll provide the infrastructure, we'll provide the platform, we're also going to provide the tools and the applications that you need to get your work done. So Gmail, Google Mail would be, or some of the Google Doc applications would be an example. All you really have to do is log in and start working. So that is software as a service. What ServiceNow has done is they've sort of combined and molded the three of those together into what they're calling application platform as a service. So they do provide all the infrastructure. It's cloud-based. They provide the infrastructure and compute resources, and they maintain it, and they ensure that it stays up. They also provide the platform, as in platform as a service, that you would need to do any development that you needed to build solutions for your company. Further, they provide a robust set of applications and workflows that allow you right out of the box to get your work done and support most of the common business processes. All of it combined, and you can still develop your own solutions on the ServiceNow platform. So that's what they mean by application platform as a service. I would recommend that you know that term. That's probably going to be a question on a certification exam. So just know it's cloud-based. They provide the infrastructure, they provide the platform, they also provide a great suite of applications that you can use out of the box to get your work done. The other interesting and important thing to know is that the entirety of the ServiceNow platform is built against a single common database and data model. So ServiceNow is not built specifically for a single function within your company. So it's not like it's a staffing application or it's a sales application. It's the whole thing. It's trying to replace your IT department with a cloud-based software solution. And the cool thing is that across that entirety of the breadth of that functionality, everything resides within a single database and data model. So pretty neat stuff there. Some things I think that you'll need to know. Now let's talk about those applications and workflows that come with ServiceNow. It comes with a robust suite of applications, and they categorize their application offerings functionally into 4 different categories, and they call them workflows. And those categories are IT workflows, employee workflows, customer workflows, and creator workflows. I would recommend that you know those 4 categories of applications. You can see here on the slide, I've listed the number of applications in the current release that exist within each of those categories. So IT workflows, there are 79 different application modules within ServiceNow that support that function. Employee workflows have 43 applications. Customer workflows have 93 applications, and creator workflows have 23 applications. Naturally, we're not going to learn and memorize every single one of those applications, but I do think it'd be a good idea to know those 4 high-level categories or workflows that they divide their applications into. Further, drilling down a little further on their application offerings, within each of those 4 top-level categories, they divide and subdivide their applications into sort of like sub-workflows. So you can see here, for example, in the IT workflows application area, They have IT service management, IT operations management, IT business management, IT asset management, DevOps, security operations, governance, risk and compliance, and telecommunication network performance management. I'm not going to go through all of these. You'll have access to the slides. I will link to those in the description box below the video. But you can see here how they subdivide the 4 top level categories into the further lower level categories. And then you can see in parentheses there, I've included the number of applications that reside within each of those subcategories. Again, I don't believe we need to memorize every single one of those subcategories, but I just wanted to present them here just to get your eyeballs on them, just in case there was a question related to one of those. So the big thing is the 4 primary workflows and the way they divide their applications. Now let's talk about the architecture itself. When you purchase an instance of ServiceNow, ServiceNow takes on the responsibility of managing and supporting the IT infrastructure and the compute environment. So we've talked about that. Enterprise cloud. One thing that makes it a little different from other cloud delivery models is this thing that they call multi-instance architecture. Probably something we should know. Normally when you sign up for a cloud delivery platform, say Microsoft Azure, for example, your database, the data that resides in that platform for your company is often intermingled with data from other companies. So there's a large database out there somewhere, and they've got it broken down into the different companies that they're serving, but they're all running on the same database management system instance, for example. What that means is that when ServiceNow needs to make an upgrade or make a change or take down an instance, for example, for a patch or something, you're intermingled with a whole lot of other companies, so you have way less control there. What ServiceNow has done is what they call multi-instance architecture. In this scenario, you have your own instance of everything. So your data is not intermingled and dependent upon a database that other companies are using. You have your own from the application server down to the database. Much more control there. You can then work specifically with ServiceNow when it comes time to have upgrades or patches run. Schedule it a little more specifically to your liking. So multi-instance architecture. Availability and redundancy that comes along with the ServiceNow instance. Each of the data centers that ServiceNow has, and they're global, each data center is paired with an additional data center to provide redundancy and failover. And this is something I think we need to know too, is redundancy is built into every layer, and that includes the devices, the compute devices themselves, the power, and the network resources. So that's availability and redundancy. Let's talk about backups and security. ServiceNow, when you purchase an instance, they provide you with 4 weekly, daily, full backups. So 4 full backups each week of your data. Then they also include 6 days of differential or changed backups. The entire platform is secured using technology that has been certified by third-party security organizations. So that's kind of what they're offering for backups and security. And then finally, on the infrastructure stuff, domain separation or multi-tenancy. ServiceNow provides the ability to separate your applications and administrative tasks into different groups that they call domains. So for example, you could have like a staffing domain where only the staffing people could have access to see the data that was there. You could have a marketing domain. So you can build your applications in scopes or domains that would allow you then to a little more tightly control the security around a specific area. So that's the domain separation. It also comes with a global domain, which is kind of across the board. Everybody has access to the global domain as long as they've got the appropriate permissions. So that's domain separation. Next thing they talk about in this lesson is the three primary user interface types. So now that we have this great platform that we've learned about, how do we get access to it, or how do users get to it from a user interface perspective? ServiceNow provides three primary methods of doing that. The first, and the one that we're going to spend most of our time in, and the one that frankly most people spend most of their time in, is the Now Platform UI. It's best used on a desktop or laptop computer, so this is like a web-based application that you'll open up in your browser using the instance to your, or the URL to your instance. So that's the primary user interface that people use. In addition, ServiceNow provides a ServiceNow mobile apps. They provide 3 mobile applications, each targeted at a different function. You can go and you can install those from your device's app store. For example, I have an iPhone and I've installed these from the Apple Store. Just go in and search for ServiceNow. You'll see those listed there. You can install those and test those out. The 3 that ServiceNow provides are the ServiceNow Agent app, which targets fulfilling requests, so requests from customers, requests from other employees. It's targeted at fulfilling those requests. The Now Mobile app, which is built for the needs of employees, so employee type functionality you can get to in the Now Mobile application. And then the ServiceNow Onboarding app is a mobile app that's targeted at fulfilling the needs of new hires. So, and then finally, the third method that ServiceNow provides to access the platform is the Service Portal. The Service Portal, also web-based like the Now Platform UI. It's kind of more user-friendly, widget-based environment that you can set up just to kind of customize and pretty up the interface for some specific group of users. So that's the third. It comes with a specific URL that you'll be able to use. So you can kind of build your own nicely formatted user interface for a specific audience using widgets. That's the Service Portal. So I think those are 3 things that we probably need to know. The Now Platform UI, the mobile apps, and the Service Portal are the 3 primary user interfaces that come along with ServiceNow. Role-based access. Next topic covered in this lesson. As you're aware, not every member of an organization needs access to everything. So applications need to be able to determine who's logged in and what do they have access to. ServiceNow's built an infrastructure around that where they primarily use 3 entities, and these are pretty common, but I wanted to mention them. There's the user, there's the group, and there's the role. Those are the 3 things I think we need to remember about role-based access. A user is what you often think of as a user. It's a person who has access to the instance. Users are usually assigned to groups. You don't have to be, but normally users are assigned to a group. It's possible to have a user of your instance that is not assigned to a group and that has absolutely no permissions. They call those self-service users. So they can still log in and they can get to some very basic functions like the home page and reading articles and knowledge base articles and things like that. But for the most part, users have a login and a password, and they're normally assigned to groups. And then eventually we'll get to where they have permissions. A group is a set of users, normally a set of users that have some common function and that need access to common tools. So the group, the user, the group, and then finally a role. And this is where it gets a little bit different than what you would think of. Normally when you think of a role, it is kind of your position or what you do in the company. That's still kind of the case in ServiceNow, but the official definition of a role in ServiceNow is it's a collection of permissions. So think of a role as a group of permissions rather than what you do. It's what the system will allow you to do. A role is often assigned to an individual user. So a user can be assigned a role, in which case they will get all of the permissions that are included within that role. A role can also be assigned to a group. So if a user is a member of a group and a role has been assigned to that group, then the user will have access to all of the permissions that exist within the role that's been assigned to the group. Interestingly, a role can also be assigned to another role. So you could have a larger sort of parent role that is made up with sub-roles, each of which have their own permissions, in which case users that are a member of that group would have access to all of the permissions that exist across all of the roles that were assigned either to that parent role or to that group. One thing to mention, this may be asked about on a certification exam, is they don't recommend that you assign permissions directly to a user. You can go in and you can assign a permission specifically to a user bypassing the role. But normally it's best to assign roles to a group rather than to an individual user. It gives you more flexibility when things change or when people move around. So that's what was covered in the lesson related to role-based access. Now let's talk about user authentication. This happens when you log in. You have to have a username and a password. This is the first level of security that ServiceNow provides to any user. They log in and they have to authenticate first, at which point when they're authenticated, it will then go on and start to look at roles and permissions that would allow you to get to certain parts of the application. ServiceNow out of the box comes with a local database authentication that they use to manage user authentication, but I think it's important to mention that they also support other types of authorization or authentication. Like I said, they have the local database authentication. They also support external single sign-on, LDAP, OAuth 2.0, digest tokens, and multi-factor authentication. So it is possible to plug in one of those different authentication types into your instance. I don't know the ins and outs of each of those. Maybe you do. I don't think I'm going to spend a great deal of time studying the ins and outs of each of those, but I do think it's important to understand that from an authentication perspective, there are various options, and these are the primary options that are offered by ServiceNow. That's it for what was important from Lesson 2, the ServiceNow Fundamentals Learning Path. I apologize for the slide-heavy presentation style. I don't normally like to use slides, but this content for this first couple of lessons was high level enough that doing a hands-on demonstration was nearly impossible. That is about to change, however. In our next video, we're going to take a brief break from the Fundamentals Learning Path, and we're going to provide you step-by-step instructions of how you can get and set up your very own instance of ServiceNow. The videos going forward will be very hands-on, working within the application, and you'll be able to use that instance to follow along and test out everything that we're learning. You don't want to miss any of these videos, so if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and you will then get notifications as videos are added to the channel. As always, we'd love your feedback. Put them in the comments, and you can look in the description box for links to any of the resources we used in this video. We'll see you in the next video.